Welcome! In the following video, we're going to make a short demonstration of all the features that BrickControl includes. Many of these features might be useful for short-term projects. Therefore, we're going to start a demo showing the different modules under Settings in order to be able to start a project in the program. The first thing we need to know is that on the left side of the screen, we can find the different modules that contain different options, settings, and screens. So the first module we're going to access to, it's called Entities, which is the main thing we need to set up to use BrickControl. In the Entities screen, on the upper left side, we can see My Company's submodule. We're going to click on it and automatically all the companies that have been created so far are displayed. On this screen, we can see all the information regarding each company, such as ID number, base currency, the country to which they belong to, the color assigned to it, etc. Let's suppose we want to create a new company. We just have to click on the New button located on the upper part of the screen in the colored ribbon. Then we complete the needed information. Also, we can see a company that has already been added to the software. For example, Smith & Sons. If we double-click on it, we can access to all its information. Keep in mind that there are fields or pieces of information that must be completed in order to be able to create a company. These specific fields are the name, the currency, and the country to which the company belongs to. As you can see, if you click on these fields and leave them blank, they change their color to highlight their importance. The other fields that appear on this screen, such as the address, the payment method, the contact information, the color assigned to the company, and the ID number, can be added later on. If you take a look at the left side tab, you can see more information that can be added to the company. For example, underneath the General Information tab, there's the Sales Invoices tab in which you can add the invoice series. The other tabs available are Locations and Additional Settings. The Images and Documents tab become available once you have saved the new company that you have created. It is very important to bear in mind that if you want to find a project, it must be associated to a company. Therefore, firstly, we need to create a company. Now, moving on to the Client submodule, if we click on it, a list of all our current clients appear on the screen. To create a new client, we just have to click on the New button located on the upper part of the screen in the colored ribbon. Instead, if we want to check out a client's specific information, for example, Bennett Silver Abraham, we simply double-click on it. As you can see, the General Information tab within the client screen is very similar to the one seen on the My Company submodule with minor differences. For example, the client can be a natural person or legal person such as a company. You can also set the payment method used by this client, as well as the currency and the tax regime, so that when you want to create an invoice associated to this client, all the data will be completed automatically, which allows you to save time. In regards to the Supplier submodule, it provides access to the list of all our suppliers. If you double-click on any of the listed suppliers, you can obtain the information related to each one of them. As you can see, this screen is very similar to the one seen on the Clients submodule. The only difference is that we're going to use clients to issue sales invoices and to create interim payments that represent revenues, while we're going to use suppliers to place an order for materials or add purchase invoices which constitute expenses. Moving forward, you can see the next submodule is called Employees. This submodule contains a drop-down menu with the following options: Employees and Categories. If we click on the Employees option, a list of our current employees appear on the screen. Let's suppose we want to check out the information related to one specific employee named Victor. So we're going to double-click on his name. Inside Victor's profile, we can see information about his education, birthday, marital status, how many children does he have, and any other relevant information for the Human Resources Department. If you take a look at the left side tab, you can see more information that can be added to the employee. For example, underneath the General Information tab, there's the Telephones tab, in which you can complete with the employee's contact number or with the number of one of the employee's family members. You can also add comments about the employee on the Comments tab. In the Allocation tab, you can indicate the company to which the employee was associated to. Also, you can indicate a start and end date, as well as the cost per hour the employee represents, depending on the type of hours he or she has done. For example, standard, overtime, etc. Remember that if you want to assign a cost per hour to an employee, you have to associate this employee to a company. For example, Victor was associated to 2 companies. In one of them, there's an end date, and in the other, we can only see a start date, which means that he's currently working for that company. We can assume that it's a fact that he continues to work for that company since there's no end date, which ultimately means he's an active employee. In the columns next to the company's name, we can see the employee's cost per hour assigned to each type of hour. We can also add other cost information related to the employee, such as cost per kilometer, other expenses, or per diem. You can find all these fields in the upper part of the current screen. This information will be relevant when we create work reports and timesheets, but we'll take a look at these features further on. Unlike the other screens we have seen so far, the Employee submodule contains more tabs in which you can add, for example, medical records, training information, images, and documents. In order to create a new employee, the fundamental information you should indicate in the software includes the category assigned to the employee. This refers to his or her role. The country to which the employee belongs to, the name, the company for which the employee works, and the currency. Once we have finished setting the Entities module, we're going to move on to the Projects module. If we click on the Projects module, we will find the Estimate submodule. If we click on the blank space underneath the Name column and next to the plus sign, we can write down the new budget's name. In this case, we'll write Short Demo BrickControl. In the next column, we're going to indicate the name of the company that will execute the project. For example, Smith & Sons. After that, automatically the fields Cost Control and Certification are completed by default with the same estimation. Afterwards, we have to select the currency which will be used for the certification. As you may have noticed, the estimate currency can't be changed, as it uses by default the currency in which the selected company operates. Finally, you can complete the code column, but it's not mandatory. If we click on the Save button, our budget is automatically created. Remember that budgets are always associated to projects. Therefore, if we go to the Project module, the new budget immediately appears on the list of projects. You can indistinctly create the project in the Project submodule or in the Estimate submodule. If you enter the project, you can complete the project's information. Notice that when you select Smith & Sons as the company that will execute the project, the information regarding the company is automatically completed. However, we can change this information if we need to do so. Additionally, we can assign a client to the project. In order to do so, we simply have to click on the magnifying glass icon to search for a client. In this case, we're going to choose Architecture JMC by clicking twice on the client's name. In this screen, we can manage all the project settings. These settings can be completed at the time we create the project or once the client has approved the estimation. The required information is very similar to the one from the Entities module. you simply have to fill in the gaps with the project information to have all the data available when you need it. Then press Save to update the saved version in case you have made changes to the information. After that, we go to the Estimation section and we're going to enter to Short Demo BrickControl. And we can see there are 3 types of estimations. In this case, we're going to work with the control version that it's the one we have selected by default. We make double click and in this new screen we can start importing information regarding the budget. Or we can create the estimation from scratch. As we need data to start working, we're going to import a budget. We're going to click on the import icon, which will open a new window in which you can select the import options such as the format. The supported formats are Excel, Excel templates, a BC3 template, etc. The BC3 format is very common in Europe to manage estimation of construction projects. We're going to click on the Browse button in order to look for a project to import. For example, we double-click on the file's name, Short Demo BrickControl.bc3, and then we click the import icon. As you can see, the estimations import was completed pretty quickly. We click the Accept button and we have the budget's imported structure. We have the chapters or levels, depending on the way you would prefer to refer to them. Inside each chapter or level, we can find the different tasks that are part of that level. And inside each task, we can see all the resources needed for this specific task or the unitary price analysis, depending on the information the company wants to put in this section. Also, bear in mind that a price can be manually added for the whole task without having to make a price analysis. In order to do this, we go to the cost price column and we manually complete the price each unit of the task. This value is multiplied by the quantity and as a result, you get the total cost. To summarize, that's the budget structure. Let's suppose we want to create a new chapter or level. All we have to do is right-click in the blank part of the screen and select New Division. For example, we can name it Paint. As you can see, there is no cost price assigned to it, since the cost price is given by the tasks inside the chapter or level. What we're going to do then is double-click on the Paint level and we're going to create a new task inside of it. We press right-click and select the New Task option from the drop-down menu. We complete the code column using, for example, AB001. Then we complete the measure unit, which in this case is square meters. And the quantity is the number of square meters we're going to paint. In the description column, we write the room that is going to be painted. We can refer to it as kitchen paint. In the cost price column, we can either make a price analysis or we can manually complete the price for each square meter of paint. For example, we could say that each square meter of paint is going to cost 10 euros, and automatically the total cost turns to 1,000 euros as we're supposed to paint 100 square meters. Nevertheless, we can use a price database. If we want to do so, we have to go to the price database submodule and we simply have to select a database from the list. For example, reference database. By making double click on its name, we can access the information inside and look for prices in each chapter. Remember that price databases can be created in BrickControl or they can be imported from Excel or BC3 files, the same way we did with the budget structure. As a result, an estimation can be created on the basis of a price database. For example, this is a complete price database. If we go to the paint level, we can simply copy the living room paint task by pressing right-click on it, and then select the copy option. After that, we go to the budget, press right-click and select paste, and the data is automatically shown in the budget with the manual price indicated in the cost price column. The next step is to indicate the number of square meters we intend to paint as part of the living room. We complete the quantity column with this value. It is important to keep in mind that while the price database provides prices for each task or level, the quantities assigned to each one of them must be indicated by the user as they depend on the characteristics of the project. Let's suppose that in this particular project, the quantity is 50 square meters. Automatically, the total cost column updates its value. Also, take into account that we can link or import a task to the budget or to the price database. In order to do that, we press right-click and select New Task. Then we click on the oval that appears next to the blank space in the code column. A pop-up window will appear showing the available tasks inside our current budget, or we can select the Price Databases option in case we want to look for a task there instead. For example, we can write Paint in the browser and press the magnifying glass icon to filter the results so that we can see all the tasks that contain the word paint. In this case, we're going to choose the parking barriers task by double-clicking on it to import it to the budget. As you can see, the fields cost price and description are automatically completed. The quantity field is set to 0 as it's a value that the user must complete according to the data obtained from the project. If we write 2 and press enter, the total cost is updated. So far, we have seen examples in terms of cost. If we want to work with sales, we have to complete the sale price column. This can be done in 2 different ways. One way would be to manually complete the value assigned to the sale price column for a specific task. For example, if the cost price per unit is 10 euros, we could set the sale price to 12 euros or to 15 euros. Since we have set the sale price, the total price column is updated to 750 euros. The other method consists in using the Adjust Sale Price tool. To use this tool, we have to go to the chapters of our budget and click on the Options button in the upper ribbon next to the print icon. If we select the Entire Estimate option, a new window will appear showing different alternatives such as percentage, total sale price, markup amount, etc. Let's suppose we want to apply 30% profit on cost price. We write 30 and click Accept, and automatically the total sale price is completed in all the levels of the budget according to this specification. It's important to mention that the 30% applied to the total sale price affects not only the different levels of the budget, but also the tasks inside of each level. Once our budget is complete, we can proceed to print it. We click on the print icon and we select a template from the list. As you can see, there are many options available. In this case, we're going to choose the basic with no lines by double-clicking on it. After that, we click the print button. Obviously, since we've chosen the basic template, the information shown in the file is condensed. We can see the name assigned to the chapter, the name assigned to each task, and in the bottom part, we can see the total sale price. This is the file we're going to send to our client. However, if at some point you need to print a cost template that displays the markup amount, or you want to use a different type of template, remember that templates are customizable, so you can adapt them to your needs. For example, you can add the logo of your company, change the color scheme, add borders to the page, or remove all of them, and add any other piece of information you may consider relevant. In this file, we only have the company's name and the information as a header, but we could add the client's information or other details about the project. The following step, once the client has accepted the budget we've just sent, is to start adding costs to the project. To add costs to a project, one option is to incorporate a purchase invoice. We go to the Revenue Expenses module and select the Expenses submodule. A drop-down menu will appear in which we should select the Purchase Invoices option. In this screen, we can see all the invoices that have been loaded so far. In the upper part of the screen, we have the filters that can be applied in order to visualize specific data. The current filter is set to show the invoices created in the program from the 5th of September until the 5th of October 2022. If we click on the filters, we can change the dates, add a company, supplier, or invoice number. In the colored ribbon located in the top of the screen, next to the magnifying glass icon, we have the new option which allows us to create new purchase invoice. There are three different types of purchase invoice: invoice without items, invoice with items, or invoice with receipt of materials. The invoice with receipt of materials is usually used by larger companies in which the purchase process includes placing an order and then getting a delivery receipt from the supplier when the materials are delivered. The process is completed once the supplier issues the invoice. On the other hand, invoices with items require the items are loaded into the software in order to link them to the invoice. We can do this by manually adding each item to a specific invoice, or we can associate a purchase order to the invoice. Finally, invoices without items refer to the invoices in which we indicate the information in a condensed way by adding the total cost and a brief description. In the following example, we're going to create an invoice without items. First, we're going to complete the company field by writing Smith & Sons. This item refers to the companies that's making the purchase. If the company has more than one location, you can choose one from the drop-down menu. In the suppliers field, we're going to click on the magnifying glass icon to look for a supplier. If we choose, for example, BBC Inc., we can see that some fields are automatically completed. In this case, since the default payment method assigned to that supplier is 15-day credit and its default currency is American dollars, this information appears automatically on this screen, which allows the user to save time as there's no need to complete those fields again. If we take a look back to the settings from the Entities module, the information we added in the Suppliers submodule is the same information we have just seen on the Purchase Invoices submodule while adding a supplier to the invoice we were creating. The Type field allows us to indicate whether the invoice is related to the purchase of materials or to a subcontractor. We're going to choose materials, but we could create any other type we want. The date is set by default on the day we're creating the invoice. We can also indicate the number of the invoice, for example, invoice 005B. This number is given to us by the supplier and we simply add it to the software. In case you were wondering what kind of information can be included in a purchase invoice without items, we can indicate, for example, an invoice related to legal service or any other service that doesn't refer to a specific item. Another example could be an invoice related to debris removal. Let's suppose the cost of the service is €500 and the tax is set to 0%, but we can change it, for example, to 18%. The different tax percentages that appear listed are created in the General Settings module. The next column is used for indicating whether we're going to allocate the expense to the project or to the staff. In this case, we're going to choose the project option and select Short Demo BrickControl. By pressing Accept, we will link the expense to that particular project. If we go to the Taxes tab, we can see the tax detailed information, such as the amount of euros the tax represents. In this case, since the tax was set to 18% and the cost of the service is 500 euros, the tax is 90 euros. In the Additional Data tab, we can add comments, indicate packages, references, etc. But that information is optional. In the Due Dates tab, we can see that the due date is automatically set according to the payment method we have selected. Since in this example the payment method is 15-day credit, the due date is the 20th of October, as the invoice's date of creation is the 5th of October. In the Type column, we can choose the method we're going to use to pay for this tax. As you can see, we have many options available in the drop-down menu, but in this case, we're going to select Wire Transfer. Finally, in the Payment Date column, we're going to indicate the date in which we will be making the payment. Keep in mind that the payment method can be changed to, for example, cash, in which case the due date changes to today. In the payment date, we select today and we press the Save button. Now, this invoice has been stored as paid. Consequently, an expense has been generated associated to this particular project. Each purchase invoice that we create represents an expense related to a project. Remember that in the Lines tab, we can create as many lines as we need. Also, different types of invoices can be added to a project. Once we're all done, we can add an image or scan of the invoice using the Images or Documents option. We press the Save button and we are redirected to the List of Invoices screen. So, what other type of things can be added as an expense in a project? Well, we can add timesheets, expenses, etc. If we go to the Revenue Expenses module and then access the Timesheets submodule, we can see the detailed information of the personnel associated to our companies. Also, we can assign each one of them to a specific project. For you to be able to do this, we need to have the employees created in the software beforehand. If we want to add a new employee to the timesheet, we simply have to click on the plus sign. Under the Employee column, we can type the name of the person, or we can look it up by pressing the magnifying glass icon. We're going to select Victor. After that, we're going to choose whether we're going to allocate the expense to the project or to the staff. We choose Project from the drop-down menu and a pop-up window will appear in which we will look for the short demo BrickControl project and then press Accept. If you want to, we can add any comment under the Comments column. In the standard work hours, we're going to indicate the amount of hours this employee has worked in this particular project. For example, 8. And also, we're going to add 2 hours under the Overtime Work Hours column. In case we want to add another employee to the timesheet, we click on the plus sign again and repeat the process. For instance, we can select Cole Alexander as the employee we're going to add. We're going to associate him to the same project as the example we have just seen. Additionally, we're going to add 6 hours to the Standard Work Hours column. You should bear in mind that the amount of hours we indicate in the timesheet will be multiplied by the cost per hour we have indicated for each employee and each type of hour in the Entities module. The result will be added to the project as an expense. On the other hand, if we want to refer to sales, we should head to the Revenue submodule and access the Sales Invoices option. As you may have noticed, this screen is very similar to the one we've seen in the Purchase Invoice submodule. To create a new sales invoice, we press the New button. Since we only have one type of sale invoice, we move forward to complete the data. First, we choose the company that is executing the project, for example, Smith & Sons. Then we indicate a client. We can look for a specific client by pressing the magnifying glass icon, in this case, Architecture JMC. If we go to the invoice information section, we can complete the invoice's series number. To do so, we're going to click on the search icon and a pop-up window will display the available options. For this example, we're going to select the 2022 series. In this section, we can also indicate the date, the payment method, the currency, and any number we might want to add as a reference. As you can see, some fields have been completed automatically after we chose the client. In the bottom part of the screen, we have different tabs. In the Lines tab, we can add a description, for example, extra works. In quantity, we write 1, and in sale price, 1,000 euros. While in the taxes column, we're going to indicate 18%. In the allocation column, we're going to select project, and we're going to look for the short demo BrickControl project. It is important to highlight that not only extra works can be added as part of a sales invoice. Let's suppose we build a building and we want to sell apartments from that building. In that case, we have to add a sales invoice for each apartment we sell. For example, we could write as a description apartment 1, indicate as quantity 1, and sale price 20,000 euros. In the allocation column, we're going to choose the short demo BrickControl project and then press accept. In the taxes tab, we can see the detailed information in regards to the taxes applied to the invoice. Since we have two different percentages applied to one invoice, you can see they appear in two separated lines. In the Due Dates tab, you can see the due date information that is directly related to the chosen payment method. Once we're done, we press the Save button and the counter from the series number of the invoice turns to 2. Please take into consideration that we can also add revenues by creating interim payments. In order to do so, we have to go to the Products module and then access the Interim Certificates submodule. We press the Open icon and select the Short Demo BrickControl project. Also, we have to indicate the number of the certification. In this case, we're going to write the number 1. Finally, we change the date and set it, for example, for next Friday. When we press accept, a dialog box appears that says that we don't have any project progress report and asks whether we want to continue or not. We click on the Yes button and automatically our estimation will appear. Usually, in short-term projects, we receive a down payment that represents the 50% or the 70% of the whole project. And then we charge to our client the remaining percentage. Also, we can split the payment in 3 installments. For instance, if we want to charge to our client the 70% of the cost of the project, we select the Adjust Progress Percentage option and then Entire Certification from the drop-down menu. As you can see, the 70% has been applied to all the levels and tasks of the budget. We can now proceed to printing the certification. So we are going to press the Print icon. In the pop-up window, we choose the template we want to use and then we press Print. After a few seconds, we have the certification file that we can send to our client. But remember, this isn't an invoice. In this document, the client can see the detailed information about the agreed down payment. Once we have the client's approval, we can issue the interim payments. To do so, we go to the Revenue Expenses module and then to the Interim Payment submodule. We press the Open icon and select the project and the certification. Then we click Accept and automatically we can visualize the information from the certification. except that we see the values expressed in euros and not in percentage in each level or task. In the upper tabs, there's a tab named Divisions in which we can visualize the information in a different way. Remember that if you want to make any changes, they should be made in the Interim Certificates submodule. If we click on any item from the interim payment, we can't change it. Going back to the Divisions tab, here we can see the total amount of the payment and also the amount that each level represents. If we go to the Invoicing tab, we can see information such as the total amount of the payment and the payment method, among others. Let's suppose we want to indicate 30-day credit as payment method. Also, if we need to add a new line, we simply have to click on the New Line button and complete the required information. In the bottom part of the screen, we can complete the information in regards to the taxes. We're going to indicate 18%. Once we're done, we press the Save button and then the Print icon. In the Print pop-up window, we're going to select the template and press Print. After a few seconds, we have the certification invoice file that we can send to our client. Finally, if we want to see all the information that we have been adding in regards to expenses and revenue, we have to go to the Reports module and then to the Revenue Expenses submodule. We have to choose the Project Outcome option from the drop-down menu. In this screen, we can apply different filters so that all the information concerning a specific project within a specific date range is displayed once we click the magnifying glass icon. As you can see, revenues and expenses are shown simultaneously since the filter was set to show both of them. As part of the report, we can access to information such as the base currency, the description, etc. Even though there are many columns with information, we're going to head to the base currency total with tax column. In this column, we can see the expenses appear with a negative value, while the revenues are represented with positive numbers. If the total sum of the report is a positive number, this means we got profits from the project. Keep in mind that this report is much larger and contains a lot of information, such as the employees that worked on the project, the suppliers, the subcontractors that are in charge of soil movement, etc. All this information can be exported to Excel by pressing right-click, Options, Export to Excel. Well, looks like that's a wrap for the short-term projects demo. Thanks for joining us.